remember when I was a new grad, I was a complete mess. I would just scramble to write things down, and when someone asked me to give a report, it was kind of like I was either running in a circle or I would never get to the point. Hey friends, it's Trish. I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I organize my nurse brain. So if you're not familiar with what a nurse brain is, it's basically where all the nurses write their notes down for the shift, including their assessment times, any important tasks that they have to do, any meds that they need to give. So if you see nurses walking around like,
I lost my brain, have you seen my brain, I lost my brain,
it's because all their notes are on there for the shift. So sometimes when you're new, it can help for you to see someone else's brain. So I've actually included for you guys down below a copy of my brain. I have two different versions. One is a short and concise version, and then the other one is a 2-page version that I actually personally use at work every day. Here in California, we can get up to 2 ICU patients, so I carry around 2 of those at work. And it helps me to just flow through information so that when someone comes up to me and asks for information about a patient, I'm not scrambling to try and figure out where I wrote what I wanted to say to them. I can say it right up front, and it also just helps me to be less anxious because I'm on top of the information for my patient. And let's go ahead and get started. So on my unit, we actually give report to both nurses and doctors. We'll give report to nurses during change of shift or if we're going on break, but we'll also give report to doctors during nurse-led rounds, which is like normal rounds, but the nurses lead it this time, and we go through system by system. When I talk to doctors, I mostly just cover pertinent clinical questions. They have already a background of the patient. When I'm talking to the nurse, I want to give them a full overview so that they know this patient well from head to toe. So my report sheet is front and back. I like to fold it in half like this and go by systems down this way and then this way. If you're looking for more in-depth systemic questions, you can check out my blog post that's linked down below, and I have questions there for each systems. Those are some things that I hope the off-going nurse relays to me, or those are some things that I'm looking to relate to the ongoing nurse. So on my report sheet, I always have the name on the right-hand side of the page. So either way, if you look at the front or the back, the name will always be on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side of the paper is where our columns start. So on the left-hand side of the paper, I have what's their code status, their allergies, and their dosing weight. So if I'm transporting a patient and they go, hey, is this patient allergic to contrast? I can say yes or no because I can see it on the top of my sheet. Right below that, I'll have their sex, their age, their past medical history, why they're here, and significant overnight events. And personally, I like to highlight significant overnight events right away because when you allude to it in each section, then the doctor is not thrown off like, oh, you didn't mention that earlier. So they know that it's coming up, so we can talk about it in the beginning and then come back and revisit it in more detail, which is my very first tip. So I'll say something like, Mr. Smith, he's a 61-year-old male and stage liver disease from ETOH, came in through the ED on 7/10 and was transferred to the ICU on 7/12 for upper GI bleeding, where we ended up scoping him. And overnight, he was still having some bloody stools, so we gave him 2 units of PRBCs. And it's very quick and concise, and then when we go through it in sections again, we can make sure that we've covered all our bases and that the doctors address if there's anything else that still needs to be addressed. Then in each section, what I like to do is I like to put any goals on the right-hand side of that column, as well as any medications that they're on. So if someone asks me, hey, is your patient on levo? And I don't remember what they were on, I can say, yeah, they were on levo of 0.12. And the MAP goal for that was greater than 65. And those will all be highlighted on the right-hand side of the paper. Right below each section, I also like to have a section for orders needed, and this is so that when we are in each section, we can just cover what orders are needed for that. And I know that sounds super duper redundant, but sometimes when you have a resident that's writing a bunch of orders, they may miss something if you don't go section by section and if you only go through it at the end. And then it's a pain in the butt to have to chase them down and have them rewrite the order. neuro. So my patient was on propofol drip and fentanyl, and we're trying to wean him off the propofol. Can we maybe start Precedex instead? He's still a little bit agitated. And then at the end, because you've written down all your orders on the bottom of each section, you can go through it again. So when you go and you are trying to close out your rounds, you can say, for neuro I needed this, for cardiovascular I needed this, for respiratory I needed this. And so everything is covered and everybody's on the same page about the things that are needed. The front page is definitely where most of the action happens, but if you go ahead and flip to the back page, that's where you'll see other things that maybe the doctors will ask you random questions about. So I made an intake and output portion. I also tried to write all the lines and drips because you'll have someone that'll definitely ask you what your access is and how long you've had that line for. I also like to write down any of their positive cultures, especially if their white count is trending up. That's something that the doctors will be looking at. And what antibiotics are we using to treat whatever infection the patient has? I like to write all of them down because they could be contributing to your intake output if that's important to your service that you're on. At the bottom, I wrote down imaging. I work in a surgical ICU, so we definitely do a lot of imaging. So we will revisit it the day after it happens and see what it is in the imaging that we saw and have some interventions based on what was going on. So I will definitely cover that. I probably wouldn't cover that at the end. I would more so cover that in each section. My last tip might have to be my biggest, is just to keep practicing. If you have a preceptor that you can practice with, definitely ask them if they will be willing to help you go over a report before you have to tell it to the doctors or tell it to the oncoming nurse. And that definitely helps with your nerves a whole lot. And over time, you'll find that the anxiety will fade. You'll feel a little bit more confident in your report, and it's just gonna keep flowing. So keep trying to find ways that help you to write it down in a way that makes it easy for you to give that report, and pretty soon maybe you won't even need a report sheet. And yeah, that's all the tips I have for you. I hope this was helpful, and if you want a more in-depth one, please comment down below, and comment down below on any tips that I missed. Alright, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!